If you want to take your sight reading skills from good to great, today's video is for you. This is my tried and true list of 5 pro-level sight reading skills, tips, and strategies. Be sure to check out the previous videos in my sight reading series for some more foundational and beginner-friendly sight reading tips. Because in this video, we're pulling out the big guns. Tip number 1. Reading ahead. The first and most important advanced sight reading skill is your ability to read ahead in your music. In studies which examined the techniques and skills of the best sight readers, researchers found that the most proficient sight readers were often reading 4 or more measures ahead of what they were actually playing. For most of us, the idea of having the bandwidth to even think one note ahead of what we're currently playing is mind-boggling. But this skill is what allows the best sight readers to start to anticipate and plan for those tricky passages and transitions in their music. There are a couple of different strategies you can use to practice this skill. To start with, if the idea of looking ahead at all is just totally foreign and terrifying, pick a really easy piece, maybe something you even know already. Don't force yourself to do this with sight reading just yet. And just work on intentionally, quickly looking somewhere else. Once every couple of measures, force your eyes to look somewhere else than the notes that you're currently playing. Look just a bit ahead, and then go back to looking at what you're playing. It's okay if the first couple of times you try this are a total disaster. We're going to learn through this process of how to keep the momentum of our playing going, even when our eyes are drifting away from what we're playing just a bit. And if you really just can't get it to work, you need to try something easier or perhaps even more familiar. The next practice exercise for this is a little bit funny, so I'm gonna hop over to the piano to show you. You'll need something to sight read. I have a hymn here because this will illustrate the technique pretty clearly, and a note card or piece of paper or something like that. So we're going to start by looking at the first beat of music, then we're going to cover it up with our card, then we're going to play it, then we're going to look at the next beat. We're gonna slide our card over, and then we're gonna play it. And continue. Next beat, and play. Next beat, and play. Next beat, and play. Once this feels pretty easy, start doing a couple of beats at a time, or even full measures. Then stop giving yourself time in between each segment to look at the next one. Use only the time you're playing the previous measure to study the current measure, and then immediately cover it and move on when you're done playing the previous measure. If you happen to have a musical friend on hand, you can have them move the card in time, so you're always having to look 1 or 2 or 4 or 8 beats ahead. If this feels really impossible, you either need easier music, or you need to slow down, or probably both. This strategy works. It just may be a little jarring how easy the music you need to do this with actually is. Tip number 2 is being able to glean some information about the piece from the title and composer. You can improve your sight reading by learning a little bit about composers, musical style periods, and different forms and genres. Learning about the traits of different types of pieces, what to expect, what elements or techniques are typical, what musical decisions you might make based on the style period, the composer, or the title or form of the piece. For example, if you show me this Bach invention in A minor, without ever looking at the music, I would know to expect some counterpoint, where we have multiple melody lines interacting with each other rather than a melody and accompaniment texture. I know that I'm going to play this with a lightly detached touch on my longer note values, probably no pedal, probably no rubato, and I know to expect the opening material, the opening themes, to show up in different ways, in different keys, in different transformations throughout the piece. Versus if you show me a Chopin nocturne without ever looking at the music, I know to expect a dramatic and expressive melody line, probably some kind of arpeggiated or chord-based accompaniment, pedal and rubato are likely to be appropriate. And while themes from the opening may turn up later in the piece, the overall structure is a little bit less rigid. Listening to lots of classical music, preferably if you can find videos where you're able to look at the score along with the music, is one of the best ways to improve in this area. Books and documentaries can also be useful, as well as the notes and information sections in pedagogical repertoire collections. Tip number 3, get really good at identifying all of your basic musical building blocks. Now, don't panic, don't freak out. You might be thinking, oh, great. So to get better at sight reading, just get really good at reading music. Revolutionary concept. But it's a little deeper than that. For most pianists, the level of music that we can play and the music we can understand on an intellectual and music theory level are different. Some people's music theory knowledge supersedes their playing ability. But I think that for most adult amateur pianists, it's usually the opposite. In my experience, many students' music theory knowledge and their playing ability tend to grow together through the beginner stage, start to diverge a little bit around the early intermediate phase, and by the intermediate or late intermediate phase, they have fully left music theory behind. So they know a few basic chords, maybe they can identify a few inversions, a couple of scales, etc., etc. But they would have no hope of really being able to deeply analyze the more advanced music that they're playing. Now, you do not need a master's degree in music theory to be able to play advanced music. But if your playing level and your music theory level are really far apart, you may find yourself running into some problems. When we look at a piece of music, the more that we see thousands of individual notes, the harder it's going to be to sight read. The more that we see familiar musical building blocks, recognizable structures and patterns, the easier it's going to be. So you really want to build your knowledge of the following: notes, including extreme ledger lines, accidentals, including double sharps and double flats, all intervals, including your compound intervals and all the interval qualities, major, minor, augmented, and diminished. And even better if you can recognize these intervals by ear as well as visually. All of your chords, including seventh chords, inversions, extended harmonies, chords with suspensions, Neapolitan chords, etc. Scales, all forms and modes, and complex rhythms, 16th notes, 32nd notes, triplets, polyrhythms, syncopations, etc. I know that seems like a lot, because it is a lot. But you don't have to perfect all of these all at once. Just taking your music theory study a bit further and trying to make sure that you can recognize some of the building blocks and theoretical concepts of the music that you study and sight read will help to take your reading skills to the next level. For a whole bunch of resources to study some of these topics, check out part 1 in the sight reading series. Tip number 4 is learning to make smart choices about fingerings in your music. Even if you can identify every interval, note, chord, and scale, if your fingerings are all over the place and you can't quickly come up with some decent, logical ideas of where to place your fingers when you're sight reading, it's never going to sound very good, and you're going to end up with a lot of awkwardness and missed notes because of fingering problems. Unlike in our regular prepared repertoire, where we spend a lot of time planning, preparing, refining, and memorizing our fingering, when we're sight reading, we have to make immediate and flexible choices to support the continuity of our music. The goal isn't to find the ideal fingering, but a functional fingering. Ideally, something that keeps the hand relaxed where possible and minimizes unnecessary shifts and movement. And this means relying on those well-internalized musical building blocks that we talked about in tip number 3. Scales, arpeggios, and common chord shapes so that our hand can default to these more efficient solutions. This is also where tip number 1 of reading ahead comes into play. Strong sight readers need to choose fingerings that set up what's coming next, rather than just reacting to what's happening in the present moment. This kind of forward thinking is only possible with that visual anticipation of reading at least a beat or 2 ahead in our music. Again, practicing our scales, chords, and arpeggios is great preparation for this skill, but I actually think that technical volumes like Canon and especially Czerny are even better for this specific skill. These take more musical building blocks with a little bit more complexity that more closely resemble real musical examples and challenges that you might find in your pieces. Finally, tip number 5 is that the best sight readers know how to edit. Especially in an accompanying setting, being a great sight reader isn't just about your ability to play all of the notes on the page accurately. but also knowing which notes aren't essential and what you can leave out to avoid mistakes and make the piece easier, while still retaining the most important heart and soul of the music. Tip number 3 is really essential for this skill. Let's take a look at a piece I'm accompanying on for my church choir. If I can quickly spot basic chords and harmonic structures, I can also identify which notes I can leave out, what I could rewrite, and what is just not essential to make the passage a lot easier. When we're talking about advanced sight reading, especially in an accompanying setting, we are not talking about perfect fidelity to the music, but rather intelligent prioritization. At these higher levels, the density of musical information in a score often exceeds what we are able to process and play accurately in our first pass at the music, which means that skilled sight readers have to be able to edit on the fly, not carelessly omitting notes, but deliberate decision making. You're constantly evaluating what matters most in the musical texture, what's the most critical to your soloist or ensemble, and ensuring that those elements are preserved. And rather than getting stuck trying to execute every single detail, strong sight readers are able to maintain that forward momentum. If you're totally new to this and the idea of not playing every note on the page feels kind of terrifying, you can start by playing through a passage in a piece, again maybe take something familiar at this point, and start to figure out through trial and error which notes you can leave out, which passages you can slightly rewrite or edit, but still maintain the essence of the piece. If you have an iPad or some kind of digital device for reading music, you can white out notes or rewrite them in a score reading program like Score. And if you're a little bit more old school, you can make a copy of your piece so you're not ruining the original score, and then get out the old-fashioned whiteout and pens to do the same thing. Over time, you'll start to build some instinct and a little bit of muscle memory for how to edit these familiar patterns and building blocks in your music. I hope you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful. And if you have any other top tier sight reading tips, please share them in the comments. Stay tuned for part 4 in this series for some resources to assess your sight reading level. And as always, thank you so much for watching and happy practicing.